Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 7 of Around the League in 30 days as we stop in the south side of Chicago and meet the White Sox. And with that comes, I hope you guys brought your hazmat suits. This is going to be toxic. There's nothing good to say about this team. Yeah, I just hope everybody is ready for what this is about to be. So that's
Well, what was that?
what was
I
what?
didn't have a mask.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have a mask. Okay. Well,
Just
all right.
It's gonna be toxic.
I missed.
I don't want to waste any more time.
They
Let's
smell so bad. We can smell them from here.
They're stinky socks. Uh,
Those stinky socks.
let's look at whatever the hell this lineup is from the Chicago White Sox. Leading it off, Mike Talkman, Luis Robert. We'll see if he stays there. Andrew Benintendi. What a fall from grace he's had. Josh Haas comes in, and Colson Montgomery, a top prospect for them down there at short. He is projected to start opening day, so maybe gives you some hope. Michael Taylor, Pirates legend, on the bench that they bring in Austin Slater. So Brandon Drury as well. I mean, look, you got to give it to them. They've added some depth pieces. They all absolutely suck, but they're adding. So there's
You
that.
added some death pieces. That's what I heard.
Death, yes. Looking at the starting rotation, I mean, this is and the bullpen. This is just comical. Martin Perez, another Pirates legend, and then who the heck? Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, Sean Burke, Bryce Wilson. Look,
The only reason I know who Jonathan Cannon is I watched MLB's Instagram page, and he's the only one that could stop a timer exactly on 5 seconds without looking at it.
that just
only
claimed the fame. Not even the fact that he pitches in Major League Baseball. You got Gus Varling coming in. My favorite name, Freelander Baroa. I mean, we're Camboos and we're done here. This lineup sucks. Their win total that Pacoda
Congrats
set.
loves the closers.
Yeah, they do. Pacoda set their win total at 61 and a half.
Aww.
There's no shot that happens, I feel like, number one.
That's generous.
And number two, I'm going to ask this question because this is really the only thing we can say for them. Is there any possible way they can be worse than they were last year? It seems impossible.
Considering they broke a record for the amount of losses in a season, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they're not going to be worse.
I mean, you would hope, but I mean, what? They went 41 and 121, which is crazy to say. But I mean, yes, they added some pieces, but it's still the same bullshit. It's still like starting pitchers that you have no idea who they are. They lose Garrett Crochet. Like, what? I mean, there's nothing good to say about this
Tyler.
team.
Tyler, I just want to go through all the subtractions. I just want to go through it. This list is ridiculous. Garrett Crochet, Chris Flexen, Nicky Lopez, Mike Soroka, Yohan Moncada, Mike Clevenger, Nick Senzel, Gavin Sheets, and Martin Maldonado. What are we doing?
Well,
what are we doing?
I mean, they signed Michael Taylor, so that saves everything.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I really,
How dare you?
we've really been talking about this pre-show. I have nothing to add on this team. Like, again, they have Talkman, cool. They added Josh Rojas, cool. This team there's no hope for the playoffs. You guys joke about me saying, "Oh, the Reds are a year away from being a year away" or whatever. That's what it feels like for these guys, but it continues to go. Again, they have some nice prospects, but this is a team that is not. I don't think they're going to hit 60 wins this year.
No.
And they got guys that even like pretty hardcore baseball fans have no idea who the hell they are. Really, like, Will, do you have anything to add to this? It's terrible here.
This team is so bad still that the only thing you could even try talking about is what their prospect situation is and look at when they can get themselves out of the gutter. Like, it's amazing how bad words cannot describe just what this team is.
Oh, and my favorite part about this is we'll get to it in a second, but they have a first year manager come in, and it's like, how is he even supposed to be like evaluated on this season? Look at the roster you're giving him. Like it's absolutely insane. John, anything to add on these horrible, horrible White Sox?
Well, you mentioned their manager. How is he supposed to be evaluated? How was their manager last year supposed to be evaluated? And I'm not talking about the first manager, Pedro Griffel. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that, but whatever. And then Grady Sizemore. How is he supposed to
Gets
be?
worse.
How is he supposed to be evaluated last year?
I
That's
don't
my
know.
question.
I will say it's a little disheartening that we're at the point where like players that I grew up watching like as a kid are now managers. Grady Sizemore, Will Venable. That's kind of sad. So that's not the point I am in my life. But yeah, I mean, I like, all right, it's like here's a pile of shit. Make it work. And there's nothing. What are they supposed to do? Like, you're basically taking the job if you're Will Venable. If you past 40, whatever, 41, 42 wins, whatever it was, that should be a success. Even if it's 43 wins, because what is he supposed to do, man? Like, it's and I don't even know. Like, Will Venable, he's a guy with no experience managing, but he was on that staff when the Rangers won in 2023. But like, I feel like it's so unfair to him. Like, what is he supposed to do?
Hey, you get some experience with the worst out there. I mean, you can do something here, then you feel like you can do anything.
That is true.
Hot take. This is like the lowest risk job you can take in the majors. Because like if you turn it around, you look
Not
like
hot,
God,
true.
and if you lose it, it's like, well, what was I supposed to do? And it's not a blight on your resume. Like, what do you?
So
supposed to
I want to
do?
go back to my beloved Orioles here. In 2018, they only won 47 games. That was heartbreaking. That was hard to watch. In 2019, everybody said the same thing about Brandon Hyde when he came in as the manager, and they won 54 games. Like, what can you possibly do worse? What can you possibly do worse?
I mean, I really think the only way he gets fired is if he has less wins. Like that's the only way. And again,
I don't even think he gets fired. There's no point. There's no point.
Yeah.
Let him try. Let him try to do something.
I mean, John's right. No, John's
I mean,
right.
it
That
is
might
true.
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure. I think they're good. That's the next question. Do you think they'll get under 50? And I will say, I think they'll probably get over 50, but it'd still mainly be like 51 games this year.
Yeah, I would say low 50s for me. Or I mean, I would be hard pressed to have a team go back to back 40-ish win seasons, but I guess it's possible.
Here's my thing, and this is where I go back to this comparison, just because I went through this in my lifetime. When you have a team that is so bad that you're the laughing stock of the league, okay, you need to trade away your stars and try to rebuild your farm system. They had no stars. they had one, and they
got two guys for it.
Yeah, you know what's crazy?
Okay. They got more, but the two big guys.
What they were like, we were talking about the White Sox as like a playoff contender. What 3-4 years ago? Like it wasn't even that long.
killed that team. That's easy.
Tony La Russa killed that team
for ages. Yeah,
but it's just
Tim Anderson's career still hasn't recovered from that man.
Well,
his career has not recovered because Jose Ramirez socked him.
Like
I think that if Tony La Russa was not his manager at any point in his career, he would have been a star shortstop for the White Sox.
I will say, if you take all of baseball, the most if put two people in the room of anybody in the baseball world, that's the most clashing personalities ever. Tim Anderson and Tony La Russa.
They were the young, hot team. Everybody wanted to be the White Sox. Look at what they're going to do. Here's everything. You know, they got Manny Machado's brother-in-law. They got this guy. They got Tim Anderson. They got that guy. And
yeah.
Remember back when they were kind of courting Manny Machado? Like, jeez.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, like they were the sexy pick to as a contender, whatever year it was, like a couple years ago.
2019.
2018, 19.
Yeah,
2019.
it's crazy. The one guy that they have that I guess you can have any substance of is Luis Robert. Um, there's been talks for so long about him getting traded. I'm surprised it didn't happen last year. So
Ty, no, you don't. No, you don't.
what?
No, he's not your. He's not. Nobody wants him.
Yeah.
Why would you want him?
Well, look again. You take a pile of shit, and there's like a little shiny, like little thing. That's Luis Robert.
Ty, his WAR is 1.4.
Well, WAR is a funny stat, I will say.
Love WAR.
We love WAR. I mean,
all right.
Go ahead,
ready to hear the crazy thing that you're totally prepared to hear / not maybe because I got a nice quote at the bottom of the screen and all.
Yeah.
When looking at Luis Robert and trying to dig a little deeper about what teams would want see in him, don't hate him as much as I did before.
Okay.
The biggest thing is
yourself.
Just that
As 5 minutes ago, you hated him.
Oh, I still think he's well. Last year, especially, I thought it was extremely overhyped, and when all that trade buzz was around, teams asking about him, like why. But I will admit, last year, aside from his rookie year, which was the COVID season, he hasn't been a bad player. He's just been a hurt player. That's the problem.
He's misunderstood.
Well, there's always issues when players get hurt a lot because, I mean, to me, Luis Robert right now is probably up on par with Tyler O'Neill because both of them have really good power numbers. They're just not healthy. In fact, Robert's probably a better power hitter when you look at his career as a whole, but he's not healthy. I mean, looking at his stat line outside of 2020 and 2024, in 2021, he batted .338. He had 13 home runs and 43 RBIs and 946 OPS. Only played in 68 games. Next season, 284, 12 home runs, 746 OPS, 98 games. And then in 2023 was his one healthy season. 264, 38 home runs, 80 RBIs, and he made the All-Star team. He's probably, if he were to stay stay healthy, is like a 270, high 20s, low 30s home run guy. But the reason why it's really hard and easy to be negative on him is he's hurt. So, I think the White Sox will finally trade him. Over the offseason when planning this stuff, my mindset was not who would want him. They're all morons whatsoever. And my thinking now is if he gets to the All-Star break and he's not batting 220, he's batting like 250 and he has 15 home runs and he's staying healthy, then I'd say, you know what? There's a contender out there. I don't want the Phillies to do it. If there's a contender out there.
I don't want my team to do it. Listen, but there's someone out there who would want him. I don't want him, but you could have him.
This is like The Bachelor, but I'm like, you know what? I don't need a rose. I'm out.
If you get this rose, you're fucked.
No, but if there's a team, does have enough of his stats as a career that if he is able to stay healthy enough, or maybe if he had his injury stint, came back by the All-Star break and was putting up decent numbers, then it would be enough for a team to trade for and take a flyer on. But you can't just really don't oversell on this because while I'm saying nicer things now than I did before about him, his track record is not worth the way that the White Sox are probably building him up from what they want.
Look, you pointed out his numbers in terms of power when he's on the field. And we had this discussion of going year by year, projecting, here's what I'm seeing. We talked about this before the show. The best ability is availability. And the older a player gets, the more that these numbers, they don't tend to go up, they tend to go down. When it comes to his injury situation, he is somebody who can't stay on the field. He isn't the sexy pick in this pile of trash.
He's actually the sexiest pick because it is a pile of trash.
I don't think he is, because if he's not on the field, then what's the point? What good is he to me? If he's gonna sit at home, resting
I think the
his
Angels
torn
have purpose for that.
hamstring, why am I gonna trade for him? Why am I gonna give you help? And that's the problem here. If he's
that's
gonna
why
get
no one
hurt,
actually has pulled the trigger.
but like that, and that's a disservice. Like he's no good to the White Sox because of that. Because nobody's gonna want him, because they can't trade him, because everybody's gonna be like, he'll be hurt next week.
Well, if he could stay on the field enough, I think it could be worthwhile. Because first of all, he turns 27 this year. He's still really young.
Yeah,
that's a big if.
The other thing too is that team, if they trade him, he has this year, and then there are 2 team options. So it is completely in control for the teams, whoever gets him, what to do with him. Will they pick it up? Most likely not, because it's a $20 million option both seasons. Yeah. He's getting $15 million this year. Not Anthony Rendon numbers, but honestly, it's still a lot.
I was gonna say, in this day and age, like that's not.
You expect Rhys Hoskins probably type of numbers out of that.
It's a lot for him. I will say that, but like money is an object in this part of the MLB.
There's going to, if he's good enough at the All-Star break, trade deadline, whatever, there's going to be a team that probably will just take the flyer this year, because they don't have to worry about another year of team control, unless he's having an all-star year this year, or he gets traded to a team and he does what Manny Ramirez did back in like 2008 when he went to the Dodgers and hit like 400, like some absurd number. But it's asking a lot for a guy that doesn't play a full season like ever, it feels like.
Yeah, he did rip it up that COVID year, though. I mean, really,
sure, he only had 60 games to play.
No, I know, but still,
233. Yay!
He's a real power hitter there.
Looking at some maybe light at the end of the tunnel for the White Sox, they do have a bunch of prospects. Some that they got out of the Garrett Crochet deal. They got 6 guys in the MLB top 100 for prospects. That maybe they make an impact this year, maybe next year. We'll have to see. But you see Noah Schultz, who I know he was kind of talked about last year. He's a guy in AAA right now. Kyle Teal was a guy that they acquired in that deal for Garrett Crochet. Hagen Smith. Colson Montgomery, as we said, he will be playing at the major league level. It seems like we believe, at least. Brandon Montgomery, not to be confused with Colson. Brandon, excuse me, Brandon.
Jeez, disrespect.
Also in that deal for Garrett Crochet and Edgar Cuero as well. So they a lot of guys, and not only in the top 100, but they have multiple guys in that top 50. So I guess there is some again light at the end of the tunnel there, but like, from your standpoint, like, maybe Noah Schultz makes an impact this year, and by impact I mean he plays in the majors, but like we're still again like a year from being a year away at least.
Yeah, no, the earliest I even see the team considering maybe being 500 is 2027.
Yeah,
really at that point it's because young guys have gotten up and they'll have had a taste of the majors, made adjustments hopefully, and then are taking the next step. Now, the way the team is set right now is they are purely just seeing who they can keep on for the future. They're going to have a bunch of guys just kind of eat up positions early in the season. Some young guys, they can see where they're heading. But you're going to see probably bits and pieces of that system finally be peeking its head out this season. They could be amazing. They could be terrible. You're probably not going to get more than like 10 starts for pitchers, and minor league hitters may only get like a third of a season because they'll still want to keep team control, but also give them plenty of time to develop, since they aren't in any immediate need to like have them benefit the major league team. So I mean, there's a lot of upside with a lot of these guys. Funny thing is, the only one that had a little bit of concern to me was Colson Montgomery because of how bad his average was last year. But he had a nice fall league, so maybe that, revamped their enthusiasm in him. But who knows? And then, I mean, especially from a catching sense too, if you got two catchers that are nearing the majors, you got a trade piece suddenly if you ever need it.
Yeah, true. Look, I think it's interesting with baseball because I do believe that your prospects getting MLB reps is very important. I will ask you this, John, and I think this maybe I'm kind of taking this from other sports, but it feels like sometimes when your team is so bad and you have all these like great prospects and stuff, you kind of like don't want to call them up because like I was kind of joking about it earlier, but you don't want to bring them into the shit show. You don't want to bring them into the toxic environment because you don't want it to affect their potential or this or that. It's a little bit different with baseball because again, I think it is very beneficial to get major league at bats to see what you have in guys. But I feel like we kind of talked about this in an earlier episode. You got to kind of be cautious about bringing some of these top prospects up.
I don't think cautious is the right word. Don't touch them. Leave them in the minors. Like there's no reason.
Taste in the majors.
No, there's no reason.
All right,
There's
I'm
reason
at the
this
point now
season.
where you are absolutely ruined by how Jackson Holiday was destroyed in 2024. 100%.
Let me finish.
No, because this is the argument.
Let me finish. In terms of their prospects, I see no reason right now because of what Tyler just said to bring these guys up right now. Let them cook in the minors this season. That maybe next season, then talk about Edgar Quaro or hell, even Kyle Teal. Like you can even talk to them about that. Talk to him about that. In terms of Montgomery, Jesus, this guy in AAA batted .214. Yeah, real major league ready there. This is my
well. So wait, hold on. I think there's a bit of a balance here because it's like so the problem with the Holiday call up from last year is that like they brought him up and it was a big deal. Like they were already planning the parade. Like they were basically saying like, all right, he's gonna come in and he's gonna dominate, and he didn't. He fell off the wagon and had to go back down. Right. So this is a little bit different. The White Sox literally do not have any type of competitive season ahead of them at all for, as Will said, probably until at least 2027, and that's really even being charitable in most cases, right? But there's something to be said for prospects. If these guys start to do well in AA and AAA, like they're batting 260 over, maybe 250 over, doing well across the board, at some point you have to just call them up just so they can see major league pitches. They got to go against guys who are pitching on a major league level compared to like AAA minor leaguers. So they have to see it more. Baseball is different in that way, and they need to start seeing pitches. So why not? If they're not going to be competitive this season, start calling them up.
I mean, I don't need to call them up until like August. You don't have to go now, and
they don't have to stay up here all season. They can come up and get stints.
Okay. Here's why I'm hesitant for this year. It's because I'm not seeing any of these guys as ready based on their stats. In terms of looking at them from, if you would let me finish before you start reacting.
The stats line is great on a bunch of these guys that are in AAA or on the edge. Like, I don't know what you're looking at.
I am looking at specifically their batting average. I mean, hell, was it Braden Montgomery? I'm looking at his, like, fresh out of college. He hasn't even seen the minors yet.
We're not talking about Braden. He's 2027. He's well down the line. He's not anywhere near.
But he's one of their top prospects. So, we are talking about him.
We're talking about prospects as a whole of what's in the future for them. But when you're going to talk about,
and that's why I'm saying,
we're not bringing up all 6 in one season. They're going to bring it up based on when they are in the levels. No, it's completely different.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm saying.
But if he starts batting insanely well after double-digit games, maybe even halfway through the season, are you not going to bring him up to make him see major league pitches?
I mean, I think that
why
it's a balance, right?
Why?
because let them cook in the minors and then bring them up next year.
So
and
you're
worry about it
saying
then.
if you have a guy who bats 250, 260 over and is just tearing the cover off the ball in AAA, maybe even AA, and the White Sox, who are not a playoff team, you want them to just stay there. You don't want them to see Major League Ball. You don't want them to
Here's
see
the reason why. Because in this situation, you have to think about the draft and you have to think about multiple prospects. You can't just think about this one guy being coming up. Think about this not past. You have to think about this past this year. You can't think about it past. You can't think about it for 2025.
Wait, what do you think we're calling him up for? To win? Or do you think we're calling him up to have him see Major League pitches so he can
That's
develop?
that's why you should be calling
later.
We're doing it again, by the way. We're arguing about White Sox.
But I know. Like I said, we have to have one thing about a bad team.
Well, I think there's a balance. Like there is.
Well, I'm confused about the point. Like he's saying that, oh, you need to worry about later down the line. This is worrying about later. You're giving your prospects a sniff of the majors. You're not keeping them up there throughout 162 games, but you're keeping them up for maybe 10 game stints or 1 series, 2 series stints and letting them see Major League Ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know from a prospect what, as early as you can, because again, if you aren't competitive, it's good to see in that time. It's like, all right, when they're facing this stuff, like, what is it? What are they gonna do with it, right? Because like I think like AAA is one thing, because AAA, like I've heard stories from like former players, and it's like AAA is not that different from the majors in like terms of like what you're seeing from like your aces in AAA and like your third, fourth, fifth starters in the majors. But if you're like a AA guy, like that's a big jump. And like again, seeing how you do in the majors is, if you're out of it, maybe one thing. I agree though. I don't think you should be like, you got to be careful with these guys. It wouldn't be something like over 162 games that they're playing, but it's like, I do think like, around down the line here, they might get some call-ups. I think what Will said about like service time as well plays a factor. But I just feel like the other thing that you kind of got to think about is you have to give fans a reason to come watch the games. And if you at least have some, hey, we got this great prospect who's going to be great for us one day, and he's pitching today, first time major league debut, like at least that generates some entertainment. At least you have to have something. So there's a big balance between a lot of different aspects. But yeah, I mean, I think either way, the White Sox do have potentially a good future, but we're not talking about next year. We're probably not talking about the year after. Like Will said, like 2027, maybe they're a 500 team.
I might have 2 kids by the time they see the playoffs again. Like I seriously, and I have 0.
I mean, I doubt that that you'll have 2. I think you might have 3. I gotta be honest.
My God, I'm not ready.
They're possible.
This organization doesn't excite me in terms of because this is the type of thing where you have to rebuild from the foundation up. That's the thing. And that's the issue here, is that you have to build from the foundation up. And their farm system isn't one of the best in baseball, so that takes time to build. That takes at least a season, if not 2. So in terms of everything else, I can see the White Sox really bring these guys up next year and don't worry about it this year. Just let them get the reps in. That's the thing. And this is also a small market team, and when you come into service time, that's important.
Considered a big market team.
Okay, well, then they run themselves like a small market team, and if they're a big market team, there is no reason they shouldn't be able to buy their way out of this.
The funny thing is the fact that they're considered a big market team is why they can't be in the top 5 within the draft lottery, because there's a rule about big market teams being in the top 5 in consecutive years. And so because of that, the way they ended up is they're now 10th. So they have the worst record, arguably, in the modern era. One of the worst losses. They had the most losses all time. They have the 10th pick in the draft this coming year. What did that accomplish?
I encourage everybody to go watch that phone call on that Chicago radio station like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the players have changed from what he was ranting about, but all the sentiments are still the same.
They are screwed.
He was talking about Jake Berger in that call, by the way, as one of the things that he was really mad at.
Oh,
I thought that rule was you couldn't be top 5 3 years in a row. Is that really restricted to, or is that a higher restriction for big market teams?
I know there is a restriction for big market teams, whether there's a flat one for everyone and there's maybe a slightly different one, or maybe it is the 3 years. But I do know that
teams,
the White Sox had finished within a certain like top 5 or top 10 worst records or whatever within certain consecutive seasons because of their market.
Not only do bad teams now face long odds to receive draft picks that used to be handed to bad teams, but they also cannot win a top pick in consecutive years if they are a large market team or paid into revenue sharing. Those teams also can't pick earlier than 10th and back to back.
Oh my god.
That's what screwed them.
Oh yeah, they're screwed.
This coming year, that is.
And I will say this is also my mindset in terms of how to protect your future here and and invest in your young guys, is to let them cook and let them build their own camaraderie in the minors, so that when they come up, if that translates. It, like, ideally they become the best farm system in baseball, and then you turn this around. I think that's the way to do it, but that's also my opinion. You guys being from Philly have a different mindset than I do, and also they're more comparable to you guys being that they are a bigger market team. I'm looking at this from a small market mindset.
I truthfully, and coming from more of a outside of baseball perspective of things, like there's differences in levels of play for major sports that have lower levels. Like, there is just a difference. The difference though with baseball is the non-contact, where at the end of the day it's all mechanical, it's all who can throw faster or have a better outside slider. So at some point, the prospects need to see it. They're not going to see it in the lower levels. So at some point, they need to go up against Chris Sale and understand what they're going against. Like, are you expecting them to do well? No, but you want to see it. I mean, when you're playing Little League ball, were you not told, like, hey, take the first pitch, see what it looks like, type of thing? Like, that's a drilled into you thing. It's really no different when you're trying to build up your prospects. At some point, they have to see what the major stars are doing, because they're going to be going against them 162 games a year.
Shout out. I was gonna wrap up our show because I was gonna say shout out Tony La Russa for absolutely destroying this team into oblivion.
Here's one last thing that I will say with that. And we touched on this when it came to I forget his first name, but Shaw with the Cubs. Is these guys' confidence. You don't want it. This is the sport that you need to have confidence, and you don't want it to be shot. You can tell them all you want, like, don't worry about this. Like, these numbers don't matter. They're not going to affect you, like all this other stuff. But if they're getting frustrated at themselves and then they're going up and down in terms of like the and riding the bus up and down from the majors to the minors, that can really mess with the players' heads or a player's head.
You know what?
There's only so much hand holding you can do.
Honestly, tough. So here's the thing. If you're a prospect for the White Sox right now, you have to understand what the Major League White Sox are looking like. They're terrible. They're not good. It's not like you're getting called up to a competitive team with the idea of you're going to be the thing that drives us to the playoffs. No, they're getting called up this season and next to see Major League ball. That's it. So if they are getting frustrated that they're not performing well, honestly, that's on them. They got to figure that out. They're not trying to get the competitive edge. You are literally only being called up to see those pitches. That's it. That's literally all you're doing. That is your sole job. Your confidence should not matter.
They got to build from the foundation, as John says, and right now they're building with toothpicks, but maybe one day they can build a big old house. And
I prefer stick men and like pieces of gum and
remember the story of the Three Little Pigs, White Sox. Build it with bricks, not with straw.
You can follow us on Twitter. at BL_breakdowns, big league breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel. This has been day 7 of Around the League in 30 days. The White Sox are done. Next, we head to Cincinnati to talk about the Reds. But until then, we will see you next time.
Wear your seatbelt.